Today, I have a very, very special guest, a dear friend, N Jagannath Das, moved from Bhubaneswar in Odisha to make Hyderabad his home in the early 80s. And he has become the quintessential Hyderabadi sports journalist. I can only think of my father, Mr. N. Ganeshan, Mr. T. N. Pillai, and Das is carrying on the legacy of these two gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time, Das, and it's always a pleasure to welcome you on a show like this.
Thank you, Raj. You put me on a high. I am following the footsteps of good journalists like your father or Mr. Pillai or Mr. Wilson. Thanks, Raja.
I must explain why I put you on that number 3 slot after my father and Mr. Pillai, because nobody has covered Hyderabad sport, and I'm sure Wilson will agree with me and he will forgive me for leaving him out on that third place. You deserve it because you have the eye for talent. You have been able to spot young athletes before they become stars. You start writing about them. I know a number of them have gone on to become even Olympic medalists. I know a number of them have gone on to become test players. And so you have that eye for talent. Your networking in Hyderabad is fantastic. And I think all of Hyderabad will be proud of you. Today, I called you, Das, specifically to talk about your favorite Hyderabad sports persons.
At very difficult choices, because I felt there are so many who made Hyderabad proud, who made India proud with the achievements on the field. But I choose my 10 Hyderabad players whom I could meet, interact, interview, see them, and learn from them. Here are my top 10: ML Jaisima, VS Lakshman, Mohammed Azeruddin, Mithali Raj, Purnima Rao, Gagan Narang, Pulila Gopichan, Saina Nehwal, PV Sindhu, and Sanya Mirza. It was very difficult to leave out many sportsmen, but these 10 had made a greater impact than other Hyderabadis. So people may say late Rahim, but I never met him, but only I heard stories from him. But these 10 people a few I could see them from the age of 10 years or 13 years, and I could write. Of course, people like ML Jaisima was a legend before I could become a journalist.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Das, for sharing that list of 10. Can we start with Jaisima, for example?
My father, late Anna Swami, was a Dian of journalists in Odisha. And we 5 brothers, out of 5 brothers, 4 followed in his footsteps. So when I wanted to become a journalist, I never wanted to become a general reporter. I wanted to become a sports journalist, basically because I had 2 big idols in front of me. One was Gundappa Vishwanath, one was ML Jaisima. So when ML Jaisima was there in Hyderabad, I was so excited to meet him. I joined News Time in 84, and within few months, I had got the opportunity to meet this legend. I was stumped by his nature, his behavior, his interaction, and I met him at the VST function. So when he came back, I stood up. I was trembling with excitement or fear. What are you felt? But then when I told him, sir, he said, don't call me sir, call me Jay. So when I went on meeting with him, I could learn many things from him. A guy from Odisha who had limited number of opportunities to see big time cricket those days, coming to Hyderabad, meeting some great sports personalities, and one of them was Jaisima. He told me one thing, and he never called me Jagannath Das, he just called me Jagan or Jagannath. He told me, Jagan, follow the sport with all sincerity. And I followed in his footsteps. And when he became the coach of Hyderabad, he always had a confidence in me. And whenever they had a team meetings or whenever I had a teamings or coming to the ground, I could meet him, I could learn from him. And a simple thing he told me, which I should say that, he went to the crease, he showed me the crease and said, this crease kills or makes a career. I said, how? A batsman has to use the width of the crease, a bowler has to use the width of the crease, and they can make their career from here. So that was a big impact. I said, how much this man knows of the game. And when as I went on meeting him, I could learn so many things. Like, for instance, he used to say, you should trick the batsman with your mind. Like cricket is a game like a chess. You have to outwit a batsman. For instance, a bowler, he gave me an instance where once when Tamil Nadu met Hyderabad, the Hyderabad could not remove many of the batsmen. Then Jayasinghe, I believe, snatched the ball. He said, "Come on, give me. I'll take the wickets." He had a forward short leg, backward short leg, a slip, and a slip point. In the first ball, he straight away spun viciously. The batsman was beaten, and the 6 wickets he took was through 3 straighter balls. Jagannath, remember, always make the batsman guess. So these are few things which comes across, like or Jayasinghe would meet. I still remember, only Jyoti Prasad and Purnima Kumar were talking about cricket. He says the ocean, which anyone sitting with Jayasinghe would learn so much. For Karnataka team, if they come to Hyderabad, it was a point that they should meet Jayasinghe 2 days before the match. Rahul Dravid or Venkatesh Prasad or Javagal Srinath, they would go to his house. His house was always open to visitors. They could stay. And other day, Jyoti Prasad said they once had a session till 5:30 morning. They never knew that it was 5:30 in the morning because he had such knowledge. He used to share his knowledge of the game. So Jayasinghe was a legend in many ways. He could play cricket, he could play tennis, he could play badminton. But I asked Jay, why did you play cricket? He said he feared only one person, that was Ghulam Ahmad. And Ghulam sir told him, I believe, stop playing tennis, concentrate on cricket. From that day onwards, Jay was a full-time cricketer.
People might think it's funny, but Jay is perhaps the biggest of the sports stars that Hyderabad has produced, bigger than Lakshman, and I'm sure Lakshman will agree with that. Speaking about Lakshman, Das, can you share some insight on why you picked Lakshman and what kind of impact he's made on you?
I was always excited to see his batting because as a youngster, when I used to play for under 19 or Ranji Trophy, I could see that there's some sparkle in his batting. And one interview of Wilson with Sandeep Patel made it that this guy is going to make it big. And his work, his discipline, his devotion, his dedication is ultimate. And I heard from many youngsters that he would, those days, the other fellow cricketers, they would be the first man to come to the crease and bat for hours together. And when he made his debut in a test match, it was pure joy for me because I saw the first time where I could write a cricketer when he was just 17 or 18 years old, because my first big article on a player made a big impact. I may be wrong, but I may have contributed a bit in his growth in his career as a cricketer. And he went on to make history. In the first match, in Ahmedabad, he made a beautiful knock against the South Africans, if I'm right. He went on to play. And what I liked about his humility, he was the same Lakshman even now. He has not changed his colors. He has not changed any of his attitude. Whenever I call him, he calls me back. Other day, I had tears in my eyes. He called me, Das, do you know? I said, what? I have a picture. My father has put your article next to Satya Sai Baba in my house. Now, which article? The first article which you wrote, a big article on me after I scored the 281 at Red Guns. I was so happy. I said, yes, is it Lakshman? Please send me. Then send me that copy. See, I'm not talking that he sent me I'm happy. What I'm saying is the humility which he has. He has become big time. He's become NCA director. He played one of the greatest knocks. And whenever he has played knocks, I always made a point to write a big article on him. They missed his 100 test match, a big achievement. He was the first Hyderabadi to play 100 test match because, mind you, Azerudin was stuck at 99 for different reasons. But Lakshman went on to play one of the marvelous knocks. And I still remember I was covering Commonwealth Games in Mohali. He, along with Pragya Noja, he took India home against Australia in the tightest of contests. I called him, and the next day morning at 5 o'clock, I get a call from Lakshman. Sorry, Das, I couldn't pick your call yesterday. I was too tired. What do you want? I said, I just want to talk to you. I was so happy. And second time I got a call in the morning at 5 o'clock was after retirement. Because when he announced his retirement, I pleaded with him, Lakshman, please retire in front of your home crowd. That is at Uppal Stadium, because people will come and cheer you up. But that day he made up his mind that he would retire. The next time when I got a call at 5 o'clock in the morning was from Wankhede Stadium. That was when Sachin Tendulkar retired. That's what a mistake I made. Yes, Lakshman, I also felt. In fact, I cried. I requested MV Sridhar, a small request to you. What is he said? Please replace Lakshman's other photo with a big Lakshman's photo in front of the Indian dressing room. He is the pride for Hyderabad. And MV Sridhar obliged. And today, Lakshman, I feel so proud. He is one of the greatest cricketers that India has produced.
Das, that was very touching. You spoke about somebody else who missed out on a 100 test match, Mohammed Azeruddin, who probably deserved his 100 test match, but like you pointed out, missed out for reasons beyond your control or mine or that of the Board of Control for Cricket in India. Tell us a bit about your interactions with Azeruddin and the kind of impact that he has made.
When I joined the profession in 84, that is precisely to say January 19th in news time, there was a young, lean, hungry batsman slowly growing up in Indian cricket. He was Mohammed Azeruddin. And my first interaction with him was at Parade Grounds, watching a under 23 match or under 25 match at Parade Grounds. I never knew that this gentleman would become a greatest cricketer for India. And it was there. Slowly, I was growing in my professional news time. Then I jumped to Express, and his first big knock was in England, against England. And remember, he scored that 3 consecutive centuries, the wristy batsman. Mm-hmm. And people in Vithalwadi still say that no one used to look at the watch in the morning. At the stroke of 5, like Azerudin would on the streets jogging. That was enough. The eerie silence in the morning, the jogging of Azerudin was very much there in Vithalwadi. Azhar went on to play for India because of sheer performance. People say that his bat was as light as ever. In fact, I was wondering what was this. In fact, I asked Azhar once, can you give me a bat? And when he gave his bat to me, I was wondering what is so light. I asked Azhar, what is this? Wahan mehnat karna baba, mehnat kahe to kaise upar aana. And I still remember in Nizam College, I wrote a story, and Azhar used to make it a point to come and bat for 1 hour at Nizam College. In Hyderabad or many parts of the city, you always have small gullies. So it's a point to make. You remember that. We always can't hit the square of the wicket. You have to hit straight. So in many of these ways, Azerudin used to play those wristy strokes in straight or back because of this small gullies. And I asked Jaisima, what is the difference between you and Lakshman and Azhar? Jay just smiled and said, we are all wristy batsmen. We like to play our strokes. And playing strokes does not mean you take the ball from the off and put it to the square leg boundary or mid-on boundary, wherever you could play with a sheer wristiness or what you call it. And Azhar always used to like some bouncy wickets. People may say that where did he play? There are so many instances. I asked him, which is the best knock? He says his best knock is in New Zealand. I don't know which place. It was breezy, green wicket. He went on to play some 80-odd knock. The ball is seaming around. In New Zealand, it's very difficult to play on seaming wickets. Particularly those days, India had never had the opportunity to have fast bowlers at home. Going back to New Zealand and play bowlers like Hadley is very difficult. And Azerudin mastered those strokes. In fact, I remember he made fielding an art. Fielding nahi hota maja kya hai. He used to say that. And I remember still in Goa, he scored a century. He came back and did 100 dandies. I said, why are you doing this? Baba, India ko khelna na, to kya hai? So I always admired his commitment to the game and his batting. People may talk. In fact, to be frank, I have a love and hate relationship with him, but I admire him as one of the greatest batsmen. If you go to the ground, if you just go and see Azerudin batting, or whenever in a dull moment you feel odd, take out the YouTube and see his batting. He gives you so much pleasure because sheer wristiness brings that art. I think very few cricketers in the world can play as wristy as Azhar.
Thank you very much, Das, for speaking about Azharuddin. You spoke about that one knock. He mentioned to you New Zealand. New Zealand brings to mind Purnima Rao because she led India to victory in 1994. I think the men's team was not having a good time in New Zealand in 94, but Purnima Rao led the Indian team to a title win there. And I think it turned the tide in more ways than one. So tell me a bit about Purnima Rao, your interactions and the impact she's made on you.
One of my dear friends, I would say. I remember in 84, 86, 85, I would get a call in the evenings. This is Purnima Rao. I scored 100 or I scored 5 wickets. Please put me in your columns, in sports column, in news time. This girl is known for her determination. Remember those days, women's cricket. Of course, women's cricket in Hyderabad means T.N. Pillai, who would roll the wickets, who would help the women cricketers to play. And Purnima Rao was product of Hyderabad's cricket those days. She went on to play, and the most memorable thing that for the first time under her captaincy, India won a 3-nation tournament in New Zealand. India had never had one. Those days, remember, in 90s, Indian women cricket making this impact was near impossible as it is now possible. Beating New Zealand, beating England, beating Australia was out of books or out of the for any women's cricket because they didn't have facilities. They had limited facilities, and with limited facilities, Purnima came to the top. I still remember ML Jaisima for his great heart, or what is a wonderful gesture. Once she was selected for India, she needed a valuable practice. And Jaisima, once, as I went to Gymkhana ground, I saw an odd figure playing out against in Hyderabad team. I asked Jay, what is this? Someone asked me, see, a new cricketer has come. MEC the pull my, he says, see, a new cricketer has come. Then I see Purnima Rao batting in the nets because those is women players playing in Gymkhana was prohibited. But JCM made a point that Purnima would play, and in fact, helped her to become a good cricketer. And remember, as a cricketer, she was a good off spinner, good bats, and a good batter, and a good thinker of the game. She was the Indian captain. And unfortunately, after she had to go in a different way. When she took out Indian coaching, she took to Indian women's cricket a new level. People talk of Indian victories now, but what was her contribution? She was the first team under her coaching. India beat Australia in Australia, T20 series, which no Indian women's cricket had done. But unfortunately, she also left the Kumble way. The only difference is Kumble got a lot of publicity. She was an unsung hero of Indian women's cricket. No one took that seriousness that how come a women's cricket coach was voted out without giving any good explanation. And Purnima took it in her stride. But remember, if today Indian women cricket, Purnima's contribution is one of the greatest, I would feel, because she contributed as a cricketer, as a captain, and as a coach. And I feel very proud that Purnima could bring so much of performance or perform for sheer hard work, dedication, and discipline.
Thank you, Das. Purnima is a dear friend indeed, and she's a fantastic thinker of the game. I think when she's watching a game, she's able to make those small notes that can make a difference to winning and losing. I think also she's a fantastic person. Personally, she has been an inspiration because she overcame personal tragedy one year to go on and become one of India's best cricketers.
And she overcame that. The big thing was.
Yes, Das. She will remain a hero for me. Mithali Raj is another woman cricketer from Hyderabad who's done really well, who you have seen grow from her early stages as a young cricketer to rise to being captain. The other day, you met her at Gymkhana when she was named captain of the Indian team to go to Australia and play the World 2020 there. The World Cup there. You were with her. Just tell us a bit about Mithali Raj and the impact she's made on you.
Very few people know that how she was spotted and where she was spotted. It goes like this. In the 80s, a young girl used to come to a coaching camp along with his brother. She was just 8 or 9 years old. She would come, sleep on the scooter, while her brother would go and play and practice. One gentleman saw her from the distance and observed her for so many days. Then one fine morning, he went to her, "Why didn't you play some cricket?" Then Mitali said, "No, I can't play," because she was interested in Bharatanatyam. But that gentleman and one of the finest seamers of Hyderabad, Jyoti Prasad, he told her, "Please come, I'll show you." And her first fling with the bat, or first was with Jyoti Prasad. And Jyoti Prasad slowly, that helped her to become a cricketer. And those days, women or girls were prohibited in the men's camp, remember, in St. John's Cricket Academy. There were no girls in the camp, but Jyoti Prasad made her play. And luckily, he had a sister who was a women's cricketer also, the state women's cricketer. Along with her, she made her play for Kastuba College. And the most important, she got the basics from Jyoti Prasad. And the next big thing was a great coach and former dear friend, Sampath Kumar. You can never, without, if Pillai was a pioneer of women's cricket, or Joshi, Sampath also had a big hand in women's cricket in Hyderabad. This gentleman told me, "Das was this cricketer." She was just, mind you, 13 years. She will become the greatest Indian women's cricketer. And my first article went on. I kept on writing on Mithali Raj. She was a bundle of joy for me, because whenever she held a bat, she said, "When I hold a bat, I have to score runs." That was the focus. And in fact, when she went to England, she scored the double century. The first Indian woman cricketer to score a double century in Test cricket. Mind you, she was a young girl, but all because of her dedication. She used to practice for hours together, and she continues to do that. In fact, when she won other day, when she received the Rajiv Khel Ratna Award, that was my last big interview. She said, "I love this game. I want more and more cricketers to play cricket, and hope this becomes a big inspiration." Because I asked her, "What is the biggest challenge?" He says, "My biggest challenge is to make India the world number, the top 3. And to a great extent, if you see in the last 5 years, India has been beating England, Australia, New Zealand, because Mithali Raj has been one of the biggest products who has pushed India to the next level." And we had Harmanpreet, Smriti, all because of Mithali Raj. She's a rock solid. And as you say, she's a wall of Indian women's cricket. She would play bat for hours together. But when you bat for hours together is no joke. You can see her preparation, any homework. Any young cricketer, seeing her homework will help her to grow in her game. And Mithali Raj has been inspiration to many young cricketers, and she is one of my delights. Whenever I write a copy on Mithali Raj, I feel so excited. Yes, she is another cricketer which I could write from a young age.
Thank you very much, Das, for telling us the story of a Bharatanatyam dancer who went on to become India captain. Thanks to a former Hyderabad all-rounder, Jyoti Prasad, and as you pointed out, a coach called Sampath Kumar, the two of them contributing to her journey. And of course, people like you who are egging her all along and inspiring her to play the best she can. Das, we move from cricket. Let's look at Gopichan. I think he's one of the biggest stars in Hyderabad sport. I think Gopi deserves pride of place among non-cricket sports persons as the first one that we pick up here.
It's very interesting, Raja, but Gopichan as a badminton in 80s, Hyderabad had never had a place for badminton. And any player from AP those days, Israel, Andhra Pradesh, they would lose in the first round or second round. They could never even reach quarterfinals. In the 80s, we are fortunate to have one man as a coach. That is Mr. Arif. He used to come to the Lal Bahadur Stadium. He used to make the boys believe that you can play badminton, you can bring laurels to the game, you can become a big name. There are many players. Actually, in fact, if badminton started becoming popular in Hyderabad, it's because of Arif. And you had Manoj Kumar, Parveen Kumar. And among them, the younger lot was one called Pulila Gopichan. Pulila Gopichan was a man had a hunger for success. And he would come to the Gymkhana, he would come to the Lal Bahadur Indoor Stadium was these youngsters. And somehow Arif had an eye to spot talent. And he saw this young boy, Gopichan, eager to perform. And remember this, those days, nowadays, you have a lot of shuttles, lot of exposures, but those days getting one shuttle was a big thing. I still remember her mother saying that she should save 10 paisa for its bus trip to Lal Bahadur Stadium. And to save a shuttle, they would roll with cloth, keep the feathers intact so that they could play at least half an hour with the Yonak shuttle. Because otherwise they used to practice with the Indian shuttles, which are used to go out of with 2 smash shots. So Gopichand was a man, he would come, look at the game, play for hours together. He was very fortunate to have players like Manoj Kumar and Praveen Kumar, who were slowly climbing the ladder in Indian badminton scenario. And he had got the opportunity to practice with these big stars. Manoj Kumar, mind you, he was very unfortunate. He could not grow up because of his injuries to his knees. He was a fabulous doubles and singles player. And they used to practice Gopichand. And there was another player called Vidyadhar. Vidyadhar, those days, had the fastest smasher in the country. So Gopichand, day by day, one day he began to make progress in the world of badminton. And he went on to win 6 national titles. He was growing rapidly with RF giving the right progress or right coaching. Unfortunately, in Pune, I don't remember which nationals, he had a terrible fall while playing at doubles. He fell down, twisted his knee, and doctor told that, forget playing, you can't walk. It was a big blow for Gopichand. Any other player would have quit the game, but it was not Gopichand. He used to cry in the night, as his mother would say. And the first step, when he stepped on the floor after the operation, it was a terrible pain. But he fought the pain. He had a determination. He steeled himself. He came back. He won nationals and came back into prominence. And he began his, his game into the world of badminton step by step. He started playing in Germany to get the exposure. And when he went to All England, he shifted himself to Bangalore, practiced there, and went to England. He became the All England champion after Prakash Padukone. A fairy tale story for him. He won it. He became a big hero. Gopi won All England after Gopichand, and when he got a standing ovation or what is a huge reception when he came to Hyderabad, he was a big cult figure. He gave the belief that we can play badminton. And when he was at the fag end of his career, he decided to become a coach. He knew that Indian badminton players had the skill, and that skill would last for only one game, not beyond that. So he said, we should work on our stamina, speed, and that was the key, and the power. And luckily, when he wanted to become a coach, he found an ideal disciple in Saina Nehwal, who was slowly becoming another big badminton from Hyderabad. And she found a good coach in Gopichand, now who began to make believe that you have to work for more than 8 hours on the court with physical fitness, the key. And the rest is history. Saina Nehwal went on to win. She breezed the Chinese wall, beat the best of Chinese players. She won so many Super Series tournament. And I was so happy that Gopichand believed that Indian badminton can go to the next heights. And he brought through Saina Nehwal. And when India won the bronze medal in London Olympics, I still remember the warm hug I got from Gopichand on his arrival in Shamshabad airport. We have done it. And it's so pleasure. And today Gopichand, under his, people may talk, there are goods and bads. But if you see, he has produced champion players in Sindhu, Kashyap, Srikanth, and who have brought glory to the country. And the last few, if you see in the last 3 Olympics or last World Championship, India has never missed a medal in any of these big events. And the credit should go to Gopichan. And I believe Gopichan has brought a change in Indian concept, minds, that we cannot play against big time countries like China or Indonesia. He said, if you practice hard, you can win it. I can do it. That was the belief he brought to the Indian badminton.
Thank you very much, Das. Gopi is a legend indeed, not just in Hyderabad and not just in India, but I think all of the world. He's got enormous respect in the badminton fraternity, and he has done all of us proud, no doubt about that. Let's stick with badminton, Das. You spoke about Saina Nehwal, the first Indian to win a badminton medal in the Olympic Games. She did that in 2012 in London. Talk to us a bit about your interactions with Saina Nehwal and the kind of impact that she's made on the sport of badminton.
My interactions with these youngsters of badminton or any Indian sport, I would always get the feeling or the message from a top player. For me, Saina Nehwal, it was Arif sir, the coach. He said the next big player from Hyderabad would be Saina Nehwal. This Saina Nehwal, I would hear stories. She would sit in a corner, observe, watch, and take all the interesting points, work herself. And she had to come the hard way, remember. She was an ordinary scientist, as daughter of ordinary scientist, whose father used to travel 25 kilometers to come to Lal Bahadur Stadium, practice and go. This girl brought wonders. She showed that she can play badminton against the best. She worked on her game, and thanks to Gopichan, she worked on her fitness. That is very important. And once she started climbing the ladder, I first wrote a big story that Saina will become the world champion. Everyone got surprised because I truly believe this girl had the stuff. And his father, I remember saying that, आप मेरी बेटी के ऊपर मिस्टर हरवीर मेरी बेटी के ऊपर एक बार लिख दीजिए. I said, I have already written see today's paper because she had beaten Aparna Popat and beats the top 100 in the world badminton. And she never looked back. She went on winning. Her first thing, winning the Grand Prix tournaments, winning the Super Series tournament. She had the belief that मैं उन लोग को बीट कर लगता हूँ साहब, कुछ नहीं, थोड़ा मारना है उन लोग को, यहाँ वहाँ उसको यहाँ वहाँ भागा देना, मारना. She had the belief. And when she won the London Olympics, I remember I went to the airport before leaving London. I want you to win the bronze medal. She hugged me. I have still a photograph of that. And she went to London. She came back from London. And I had the honor to honor her through Andhra Pradesh Sports Journalist session at the Gopichand Academy. I was so happy. And next day morning at 5 o'clock, I got a call from Saina Nehwal. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You honored me because you had the right, you had the privilege to do that because I'm so happy you wrote so many articles on me. And what is Saina so special? Saina's special is nothing but her hard work. She would work on a particular smash. She would work on a net game, and she would look unbeatable on the court when she's in full cry. She had the finest victories in world badminton when few believed that they could beat the Chinese player. Beating a Chinese player was as big as a big task, as big as climbing the Everest. And she broke that. And when she went on winning the Super Series title, people believed that she would win the world championship. Unfortunately, by then, another girl called PV Sindhu started coming up. And many believed that this rivalry would become a big. And the best part is that Sindhu made a bigger impact than Saina in world championship. But Saina made a first score by winning the medal in London. Many may say it's a default. She lost because the Chinese player gave a walkover in the bronze medal match. But you should remember, Saina had to fight to reach that sport. And she gave a belief that India players can win bronze or medals in Olympics. Saina is a fairy tale. She is an amazing product of one of the products of Gopichan. And if Saina Nehwal has won the bronze, you should appreciate her because she won through her sheer hard work and she won the bronze medal beating many players, and unfortunately in semi-finals, the Chinese players forfeited her match, and she won the bronze medal. That was enough. That was enough to make history. And today we are proud that Saina has won a silver in World Championship, a bronze in Olympics.
Thank you, Das. Let's stick with badminton. It's quite amazing. Huh? You've chosen Azhar and Lakshman, Purnima and Mitali. It's quite evident that there would be both Saina and PV Sindhu in that list of yours. Talk to us about Sindhu, who also set history by becoming the first Indian woman to win multiple medals at successive Olympic Games.
Sindhu is another amazing story which we always, and Hyderabad is very fortunate to have some great sports personalities. They brought glory. They won Olympic medals. They won World Championship, and in cricket they brought world records. So among them was young Sindhu, daughter of a volleyball player who was P.V. Ramana, who won a bronze medal in Asian Games in 1986 in Seoul Games. This girl used to stay in Maratpalli, and when she first used to go to the first glance of world of sport was when she accompanied her parents to the RRC grounds, where she could see her father and mother playing volleyball, but she was never interested in that game. Since her father saw that her daughter was not interested in volleyball, he saw the best alternative was badminton, where the late Mehboob Ali was a quiet and efficient coach because he had given a strong basics, and Sindhu began to practice for hours. She began to love the game. But a turning point of her career was when she met Gopichan. He inspired her. She told her father that I want to become like Gopichan. And Ramna straight away said, okay, fine. So she was introduced to Arif. She practiced for hours together. At that time, Saina Nehwal and Gopichan making a good progress as a coach and as a player. And at the right moment, remember Ramna is an ex-sportsman. He knows the pros and cons and how to make a career. And he saw Sindhu the right time that he appreciated Arif's work. But he said, if I want to take my daughter to the next level, I should go to Gopichan. So they used to travel 32 kilometers from Maratpalli to Gachibowli, where Gopichan had the academy, and her first steps towards glory began at the Gopichan Academy, and it was a start of a dream career. You can now find a player like Sindhu because she had that aggression in her game. She was tall, she was ready to smash. Remember, her father used to be a deadly smasher as a volleyball player. And this trait came to Sindhu. She began to make a progress, and there was a solid basic foundation for Sindhu. And she had the, the physical fitness to challenge the world of badminton players. And when she began to make a steady progress, Gopichan straight away said, this girl is going to make us, cry with joy or make us proud. And Sindhu did not disappoint. She had a biggest smasher. She had a very good net game, and she developed that skills in the biggest way possible. And through sheer hard work, practice for hours together, she won her world championship as a young girl when Saina was already a big player, and she went on winning the medals in the world championship. But she was never a success. Was never a success at Grand Prix tournaments. But that never bothered her. Her main goal was world championship and Olympics. And when she came to the top, just breaking to the top 10, there was a break in relationship with Saina and Gopichan. And Gopichan saw that Sindhu was the next big player from Hyderabad. And it was history. When she won the world championship, silver, when she won the Olympics at Rio Games. There are a few things important before Rio Olympic Games. Sindhu was not as aggressive as the court after every point. The point came when Sindhu was asked to shout, and for this, Ramna and Gopichan had to make a lot of preparations before the Rio Olympics. She would come half an hour before the start of the camp. she would just keep on shouting so that at the court, people like Carolina Marin and all will psych the players. So Gopichan and Ramnas believes that you also have to psych the opposition players. And Sindhu did, what a magnificent final it was, three-setter. And Sindhu made a big mark, became the first Indian to win a silver medal in badminton. She showed the way to that Indian badminton can make a further progress what Saina and Gopichan achieved. She can do a much wonderful job. And she made history 2 years later after the Olympics. Remember in the previous finals in the World Championship, she lost to the Japanese player in three-setter. So the next championship, where she wanted to win the gold desperately, she made her preparations change. She did what according to Anand Mahendra, it was a monstrous training. And that monstrous training helped her to win the first ever gold. It was a part of a journey where Gopichan was a part of it. There were different reasons. After that, they split. But Sindhu continued to make waves in world badminton. And she won a second medal in the recent last year's Olympics to win a bronze, the first Indian badminton player to do so, or second Indian to win after Sushil by winning a silver and a bronze. And today, Sindhu is one of the finest sportsmen that India has ever produced. We should give credit to Sindhu for sheer hard work and the discipline and the devotion.
Right, Das. You've been speaking very passionately about the two women who picked up Olympic medals, two Hyderabadis who picked up Olympic medals. Let's now talk a bit about Gagan Narang, the first of the Hyderabad people to win an Olympic Games medal.
Hyderabad is fortunate to organize many international national games and Afro-Asian games and all. So Chandrababu Naidu was a great promoter of sports. Thanks to him, he had a great infrastructure in Gachibowli and the opening of the central, shooting range at the Central City. And after the national games, there was an Afro-Asian Games. Here, and a young guy called Gagan Narang. He made history by winning a gold at Afro-Asian Games with a world record. If I'm lying, I don't know. But he won, and that's the start of a great career. Gagan is a man who always believed in discipline. He's another guy who believed that he could do it. And there was so much of sacrifice from the parents. The parents had to sell their land. The parents had to borrow guns from and all. I still remember when he used to win World Championship, there was no one to receive him at the airport. I used to ask the sports authority people, he's a World Championship winner of gold. How can you bring him, receive him at the airport? But Gagan never gave up. He said, no, I have to win Olympic medal. And the first big stride was the impact. In fact, he was slowly getting into the 10-meter air rifle. He was very unfortunate to miss the medal in Beijing Games with a new point system, and it hurt him a lot. And Abhinav Bandra went on to win the gold to make history. But Gagan was slowly and steadily making his progress. And his first big man he wanted to really show the world was in the Commonwealth Games, where he won 4 gold medals with a sheer willpower. And I could see the confidence before the start of the games. Main to jeetne wala hoon. I'm going to win the medals here, because he was hurt. Because by the time he was overlooked for Rajiv Khel Ratna Award. So he wanted to show the world, because I'm also a good shooter. And Commonwealth Games, he shot 4 gold medals. And the rest is history. The next year was the Olympics, where he was unfortunate. No one knew that he had an injury. Despite that injury, he won the bronze medal and made history. When he came to Hyderabad, there was a big smile on his face, saying that I have done it. Gagan is one of the few shooters who has not lost his touch with the game. He's opened his own academy on Gun for Glory. He says, I want to bring more shooters, where he says, remember, India can only win medals through shooting in Olympics. And that is a true fact, in fact. Even though other sports are making a big impact now, this is a true fact. Shooting has brought glory to India. And he says, one of the greatest thing of Indian sport is that the Indian flag hoisted in a country where India wins a medal. And we are proud to have so many Indians winning the medals. And that is the biggest pride. I want to see Indians winning more medals. And this has made him more determined that the next few Olympics, he wants to produce at least 2-3 shooters from his academy.
Super Das, thank you very much for talking to us about Gagan Narang, the shooter. There is one other athlete who's been phenomenal. She might not have got an Olympic Games medal, but Sanya Mirza is no less than anybody else that Hyderabad has produced. I think she's instilled a lot of faith. Many may not remember Saida Sultana, who was a multiple-time national table tennis champion. But Sanya Mirza put Hyderabad women's sport on world map, perhaps even before Saina Nehwal and PV Sindhu came along. Sanya Mirza was making waves, and she deserves credit. Thus, over to you to speak about Sanya Mirza.
She's a delight to any sportsman. And one thing was, I always remember going to Sanya Mirza's press conference, you have to be well prepared. If you ask any silly questions, she would not tolerate. She's very particular about that. What I like of Sanya was her resolve that I can win. I still remember after winning the Australian Open, her father Imran saying that, Das, you remember? I said, what? As a 10-year-old, I asked her to come and see this girl. I said, I don't remember. No, you just saw her for 10 minutes. Then you told her she's going to win Wimbledon titles or become world champion. I said, how? Now I have seen her eyes says that. And the best part, Imran tweeted that. I felt so happy that someone has acknowledged my contribution to someone who can make big in Indian sport. And Sanya Mirza, as a 10-year-old, she grew up to become one of the greatest players from India. Mind you, Indian tennis had players like Vijay Mehta, SP Mishra, Leander Paes, Ramanathan Krishnan or Ramesh Krishnan, but no one went beyond Sanya Mirza. And as Sanya Mirza would say, she had to work hard. And remember, her parents played a big part. They were more ordinary middle-class people. So I asked Imran other day, what was the key to her success? He said, that's so simple. I would break Sanya play. We had 3-plan program. She would play in a tournament. There was an easy tournament where she could win the matches, get her confidence, win titles. She would next play in a tournament where there's some difficult players or more players who were stronger than her. She might have lost many matches, but that made her stronger in her career. That made her learn so many new tricks. Same thing, like, it's an evolving process, it's a learning process for her. And the next big tournament is always unless you're strong in your mind, mentally tough, you can't play big tournaments. And Sanya was the one girl who always believed that she would fight to the last point. She would not give up. And for that, she had to work very hard. And mind you, women's tennis is all about, tennis is very easy to say, but to serve and to last at least 2 hours, 3 sets is not an easy job. And Sanya went on to make miracles in Indian women's tennis. She became a champion in juniors Wimbledon. She won in women. She made a big impact in junior Wimbledon, and that made her progress. And as she went on, Imran said, Imran said one thing, her father, Indians are good in doubles. Why? Because Indians are good physically, they're not physically fit to play on a single court as in 2 courts. They can play in 1 court. And Sanya had the physical fitness to play on 1 court, along with a doubles player. And that decision to become a doubles player was a big thing to Indian sport because she brought glory. Imagine she winning, women's doubles, Martina Hingis, or Mahesh Bhupati, or winning the Australian US Open. It was because of her sheer determination. She always believed that if you play with power, and she had the best forehand shots, as good as Steffi Graf. It's very good. So it's very good in her forehand shots. The only difficulty, what her father said, if only I had corrected her serve little more, she would have been much better player. And today, she married Sohaib Malik. There was a lot of opposition to her, but she believed that she made the right choice. She didn't bother what people talked. And she won. And when she wrote a book and became a mother, many thought she would retire from the game, but she came back, won a title in Australia. And I asked Vishnuvardhan and Saket Mainani, what is the success? She said, this girl is amazing, sir. She's got just motherhood. It's not easy. She would come back early in the morning, practice for hours together. She would not, she would be relentless in the practice with her shots, go back, play with her kid, Izan, come back in the evening, again play. This is amazing stuff. She's one of the India's greatest gift to sport. Sanya Mirza is a jewel in Indian sport. It's always a pleasure when you talk about these great sports personalities of Hyderabad.
Lovely, Das. On that note, it is actually a beautiful note to end this conversation. It is really remarkable that Hyderabad had produced so many champions and continues to do that. The system there has been established pretty well by the Municipal Corporation of Hyderabad, but obviously you need a lot more than that has happened in the past. And I'm sure Hyderabad will flourish with more champions coming along and making India proud.